Good morning.
Morning. Having a little love song by Quinn Del Val to start our day. All right, we're going to gently fade that out.
Oh, very nicely done. It's like we know what we're doing.
Let's not be crazy. We don't know what we're doing. It's all a fluke. Thank you, Mark Zuckerberg. How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm pretty well too, thank you. So yesterday we told you that we were launching this 13-part series, which could spill into 14 parts if we do a follow-up at the end, but we'll see. We're not promising that. We're promising 13 days. All around these 12 AA promises, which I had never heard of until we started listening to another podcast called Seasons of Sobriety. So yesterday we read through all 12, and then we're going to do one per day. So today's is, if we are painstaking about this phase of our development, we will be amazed before we are halfway through. And I asked Dr. Mary if he would lead these conversations, since he brought the promises to the table and since he's kind of worked through them and has been thinking about them and knowing them for 3.5 years. So what do you have to say to this one, Dr. Mary?
We are painstaking in what we're trying to do. You will be amazed. I can just give you some specific examples of what I was thinking in the road to where we are today. Before I even heard of the promises, one thing that struck my mind is when I woke up from my coma. I had a roommate. We've talked about him before, but one of the things that really struck me is, I don't know, you might have to fill in a few gaps here. I think I was there like two or 3 days, and because the first couple of days I didn't really remember
Well, he
much.
wasn't there when you woke up from your coma because you were in intensive care for your coma. You got moved to a room that he was in. Yeah, I don't think he was there the first couple of days, but he definitely was there the last 4 or 5 days.
And I was sitting with you, I remember you being there, and they asked this guy his name and his date of birth, and he couldn't remember. And that went on for a couple of days, and when he did remember what it was, turns out that he was younger than you.
Yes. And he looked, oh my gosh, I would have said he was 70.
So that was my first wake-up call to, how's my life going here? The next one, I think, is where, because I can walk through a lab that's equipped for what I do, and if a student says to me, hey, Dr. Maz, this isn't working, I can, within a minute, I can generally help them out and get it working. And that's what I thought while I was still in the hospital. That's what I thought I could do. I thought, yeah, I can fix myself, which is, yeah, it's just a huge, hindsight is fantastic, huge mistake. It's actually laughable to how little I didn't know of not how to live your life as a happy, smiling alcoholic, but how to actually start admitting that I had a problem, because then I didn't. I talked with a social worker about doing day release to start my the next stage of my treatment, to see if I'd actually can stay sober. I thought I'd be delighted. I thought I'd work this out with Dana. So when I told Dana the happy news, I had absolutely no idea how or why she was disappointed and angry, I think. Furious, there's the word. Furious. We had a conversation. I think that was Valentine's Day.
Might have been
that Valentine's Day. So I thought about that long and hard. So I talked to the social worker again, and we both came to the decision that I should go into residential care. So on my birthday in 2017, in February 2017, I actually went into treatment. The next day, this is when I first heard these promises, the first 12 of them. And the first one didn't even ring true probably for about another 10 days until Joanne, my counsellor, gave me an assignment to do, and bearing in mind that the academic on the wicker couch here, didn't do it because I couldn't be bothered because I was too full of myself and too depressed to do it. So she screamed at me. This day was a day she picked on the quiet, a bit of shock treatment, which absolutely worked. She got Dana to come in to talk to my little group about what's it like to be, well, the wife of an alcoholic, or what this time meant to her. Between Joanne yelling at me, I went out and had a conversation with Dana in the car at lunchtime, and Dana just said, "What are you doing? What are you doing with your life? You're wasting it. You're ruining us." Between those two things that afternoon, I remember I went back into my counsellor session, and I think that was the first day I actually started listening. Joanne told me I might be a lost cause, and within a week she was telling me that I might be able to go home and come back during the day. That moment, that afternoon, I think it might have been a Wednesday, actually, thinking about it. I do remember it completely. That's when I realised that if you are painstaking in what you're trying to do, that's when I first started taking it seriously. I went home and did the assignment. Well,
I went back to your room.
I went back to my room. I did the assignment. I was ashamed, and rightly so. And then I started to listen. And then 3 weeks later, I graduated from Prairie, and I eagerly awaited the next stage. That's when we started seeing, well, Dana and I started seeing a counsellor, which I think we've talked about that before, about the triangle.
Yeah.
I saw a counsellor on my own for a few weeks, and then the AA meetings, and the rest is history. But it was that day. That's when I became aware of what the first one actually meant. If you are painstaking in what you're trying to achieve, you'll be amazed at the results. It took a day for me to realise I needed to listen. Why did I not say anything in AA for the first year? Because that's the day I realised I needed to listen to people. Because I've been ignoring your very heartfelt pleas for me to do something different. I was ignoring myself. The more I think about it, my brain was telling me that there's something going on, and I was just completely ignoring myself. So that day, that first promise, that's, for me, that's what that meant. If you really want to do something, you got to, well, I guess it means if you want to do something, you have to put the work in.
Yeah.
And that's fantastic advice from someone suffering from an addiction, but I think it's quite good advice, and that's the point of this. It's good advice for everyone. It's good and not advice for the significant other of a spouse, of the significant other of an alcoholic or an addict, someone suffering from this disease, to say, all right, how do we get you to there? Or how am I going to get through this next day? What can I do? Because I think you do feel kind of powerless and hopeless. And these little promises, again, just little snippets of advice that random people wrote down in the 30s. And we talked about Aristotle yesterday. There are loads of great statements out there that can help you, that came from hard thought. And that's what these promises are, I think, hard thought to lead you to a path of recovery.
But to follow up on that, haven't we all had those moments where everything feels hopeless, nothing feels like it will change, and you just have to put in the hard work? The hard work, whether it's realizing you need to leave a significant other, or realizing you need to quit a job, or that you need to drop out of school or go back to school, or that your child has a problem that you have to help them find help for, or that your parent you need to move your parent out of their home, or whatever it is. To live, to be alive, is to suffer. And I don't mean that in the like super Catholic sense.
Yes, steady on the Catholic you go.
But it's true. I mean, every stage of life brings joy and brings trial, and you can lean into it, You can bury your head in the sand. You can look the other way. Or you can say, well, I guess this is what we have to do today. And often it's not easy.
Yeah.
But if you're unwilling to do the work, you know where you're going. You have to try to do the work to see if you can make the change. And that's what you did. I watched you that day.
Like a light bulb going off.
Maz's retelling is pretty accurate, and it's possible my version of it's not absolutely accurate either. But I went in to talk to his rehab group. He didn't know I was coming.
No.
And then it was either later that day or the next day that we had this session with Joanne.
Oh yeah, we had a follow-up session. Yes,
And
we did.
I got there first, and she told me some terrible things about you, that you had narcissistic personality disorder, that you were not recoverable. Some things that I remember thinking, what do I do with this? I mean, hearing that he had died would have been easier because that has a finality to it. There was no finality to this. This just felt like a long stretch of the rest of my life trying to navigate time with a lunatic. So then you walked in and she asked you where your homework was, and you said, oh, I didn't get it done, I had to mop. And she said, that's not true. And you said, well, I had to do, and you had all these answers, and every answer you had, she refuted. And I remember sitting there horrified to be watching this, because it was like I was watching a really tall 5 or 6 year old be told off. And it was really hard to watch because you weren't hearing it, and she wasn't angry. She just refused to believe your lies, because that's what they were. And then she said to you, you can leave. And you said, what? And she said, get up, leave. You don't belong here. And you walked out, and she looked at me and she said, see? And then she kind of excused me. And I walked out, and you were sitting in the entryway, and you said, can we go sit in your car? And we asked to make sure that we could do that. And the only way I can describe this is to say I ripped my face off and revealed this furious monster, some sort of Greek god thing that was living inside of me. And I pretty much said everything I wanted to say to you.
So, if you ever hear me ever again say, so I had my ass handed to me in a plate, that's what I meant by it.
Yeah. And amazingly, and this is the important part, this is when the light bulb hit. I'm not telling you I'm the reason Maz turned the corner. I'm telling you this is the moment it happened for whatever reason. He listened.
That's when I painstakingly took stock of what I was doing. That was the first promise. It took me that long to get it.
He never dismissed me. He never refuted me. He just listened. And when I was finally spent, which is the only, I just worked myself through 10 or 15 minutes of everything I had been thinking for years. You said, I'm going to go inside. I have some work to do.
Yeah. That's when I got it.
And we've never looked back.
Now it's going to be completely different for everyone, but that's I think that's the message. One of the messages here is take a breath and listen. Everyone should do that. It's not just in our situation, but that's good advice for everyone.
Yes.
It truly is. And the more I've got back on track, I kept my job, and I think I've become better at my job because of this.
Well, you're certainly a better husband because of it.
Thank you.
Better dad, better son, better brother, better uncle, better all those things.
I don't know if I've improved as a dog owner, to be perfectly
Not
honest.
much, no, but that's whatever.
But yeah, whatever.
And I'll say from my perspective, do the work.
Yes, it is hard. It's not supposed to be easy. There's a phrase that I learned too. Rehab or rehabilitation is not supposed to be easy. It's supposed to get you to think and do the work. And there are people that have said to me, I can't do this anymore, it's just too damn hard. And that is sad. It's not, I can't see it as a failing on their part. It is hard. I will never judge anyone by that. That's why the Serenity Prayer is the prayer for the still suffering alcoholic, because it is hard. I mean, it does take a little bit of wisdom, and that first promise helps you see what that wisdom is, and it's not easy, but it is doable.
So that's it for today. Figure out where you need to do the work and start to do the work. It's not about being an addict. If you're not an addict, you're not excused from this assignment. Do the work. We all have it. We're all better when we've done it. So, have an excellent Monday. No, Tuesday. Have an excellent Tuesday.
It's Tuesday.
We'll see you tomorrow morning at 8:30.
Which will be Wednesday.
Promise number 2. Bye.
See you then.